Bye 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 bye
Bye bye bye bye bye bye bye bye. Hello, listener. Hello, Jody Raynsford. How you doing?
Hello, David Hellard. How are you?
What are you giggling at already?
It's just there's not much a massive delay between us. It's painful.
Oh, really? Oh, bless. It's your bloody new system that's bringing us down. So, Duba, just so you know, I am completely hands free. Hands free. Not going to jail for this. We've lost one interview and one bad stuff already, it seems. Down to the new tech.
I thought this
which also means that our harmony's quite good. I guess you don't know what good. That's the thing, you don't know until you try things, do you? Repeatedly, that when they then fall down. And yeah. Anyway, how have you been, Jody Raynsford? Last time I saw you was you're in a very different state.
I don't want to talk about it. I made a great deal of compromises at your wedding, which I'm not very happy about to please other people. And
what were those compromises?
I feel like I've been compromising around my beliefs, compromising around that kind of stuff.
Wearing an FYB bow tie.
Shoes that. Well, I do like the FYB bow tie. That was very nice. So listen, David's wedding. Not one to do things by halves. We were all wearing dinner jackets, and we had customized, personalized bow ties, different colors, and with things that were related to us in some way. And I had a lovely set of Deadpool style cufflinks to go with it. What did everyone else have? Do you know what? I didn't even bother asking what anyone else's were. Like, what were the different themes for different people, or can it not be mentioned?
No, it can be revealed. Although, when you have a moment, you think, "Oh my God, am I getting old timers? Is this how it starts?" So, Jeff, it's not Jeff. What am I about? Pork Pie had the Hulk hand because of Fish Jam, which we may have mentioned years ago. Climbing Fish Jam. Sweetheart had Captain America.
Fish Jam.
I was the Flash. No, that's Bob and Sam Hawes who hate Fish Jam. Pork Pie is probably the instigator.
Oh, is he? Okay.
The instigator of the Fish Jam. Then you obviously had Deadpool. Sweetheart had Captain America. I had the Flash because of, in theory, running speed. Then we had Misha was Iron Man.
The Flash because of your running.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because of speed. I'm faster than my friends, so I'm the Flash.
You're Flash in a very, very different way, I've got to say, probably. But no, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to crowbar in any kind of superhero things because Briggsy's the Batgirls, the Batgirls. So that was the theme behind it as such. And then Lex I got completely wrong because he used to love Sharp, the Sean Bean character.
What?
So he used to rib him about loving Sharp. Yeah, he was obsessed with Sharp, as many good men are.
The books or the TV series?
The books and the TV series. Yeah, both.
Really?
I even watched the TV series because of him. This was about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and thought they were great as well, actually. But for some reason in my head, that rewired to be, instead of Sharp, to be Stark. And so I then got him some cufflinks linked to the House of Stark that then made no sense. And it wasn't until later I went, oh, no, it wasn't Stark he liked, was it? It was Sharp. God, have I got Alzheimer's coming already? So, yeah, apologies, Lex. He doesn't listen to this, but, yeah, doesn't quite. The format was there. And then Mene was Thor because he'd dressed as Thor one New Year and kind of got in a bit of a ruckus where he'd pinned someone and started proclaiming that the gods of Thor would rain down upon him. And he loves bees, so he had a bee bow tie, which Sweetheart had hearts, Pork Pie had pies. He loves bees. He's obsessed with bees, genuinely.
Really?
Yeah, Yep. And I had a pair of trainers on mine.
How does he manifest his love for bees?
He shares a lot of Facebook posts about bees, and now everyone kind of buys him things bee related. If I see something that is, it's got to be quite significantly bees, because there's a lot of bees in the world and in terms of logos, but I will message him and be like, hey man, check out these bees, and he'll typically love it. So that's his thing. And yours is FYB.
Nice. Yeah, well, mine was
so yeah,
that was good.
So when what's the last moment you remember in the wedding?
The last moment I remember in the wedding was leaving just before Sweetheart's speech finished.
Leaving, right?
I left it just before, because it was fairly early on a bit. It was kind of going on a bit, but yeah, it was pretty early on, and I have to say that nothing has come back at all. It's one of those. It was one of those evenings where, and there's only been, I think, in my life 2 or 3. Like, one was my leaving do for the magazine I used to work on. And we went to some vodka bar in Poland Street and drank like neat vodka, and I literally remember being there for an hour, and then the next thing I remember, and Libby was the same. The next thing I remember is waking up at home, no idea how we got there, with an Optimus Prime Transformers helmet staring at us, and I had no idea where that came from.
Wow!
And I'd never remember anything about that.
Wow, that's a result.
That is a result, isn't it? And then there was another time where, again, this was all when I was working in the journalism, where we went to a screen. You know, because I talked about screenings, didn't I? And the worse a film, the more alcohol they ply you with, and it was just supposed to be like going out for a kind of type thing. And then I literally couldn't. I don't know. Do you ever have that? Do you ever have like times where you just don't remember any, like? You remember the last thing, and then hours later, and you don't know what happens. It doesn't happen a lot to me, and that hasn't happened in a long time.
No, not often.
Because I have this weird thing. As if Libby's with me, I can't get drunk. It's so odd. Like when she's like with me.
Oh, together you just don't do it.
Yeah, when we're together. I mean, she can, but I can't. It's really weird. It's always.
As in, you hold back, or it just doesn't affect you.
I hold back, or it just doesn't. There's something there, because I know, how difficult she is to deal with when she's had a drink. But yeah, that might be
so
it.
It's the fear.
But yeah, this is
interesting.
This is
insight.
This is one of those times where I cannot remember. Of course, I know what you're going to talk about, because everyone has sent me photos of.
Oh, is this booked? Oh, sorry, the room's been booked. I need to move mid-podcast. So, yes. See, should have got here earlier, and I'd have been good. Hopefully, there's somewhere else, but it might mean I'm in a random corner of an office, which could be quite awkward. I don't think we've ever had this before in the pod, have we?
No.
Sorry, guys. Hopefully there's a...
Is it a quiet office? Is it quite a quiet office?
It's kind of an empty office, except all the rooms are taken, which is almost counterintuitive. So there's 2 more potential rooms. So, yeah, so you missed all of the No Talent competition.
Yeah, was it good?
Genuinely was one of the most fun things I've ever witnessed, because the level
was it
the lack of talent.
Was it a genuine lack of talent? Was it people trying stuff that they really, or were there some people who thought, oh, this is a real opportunity for me to reignite my singing career?
There were probably, I'd say there were 2 people who were genuinely good at what they were doing. And everyone else, I've got a private meeting room here. Let's change this sign. You can see it's going vacant Meeting in progress. Wow. That surely is our protection. Yeah, it went on because a lot more people did it than I was expecting. But I'm trying to think of who from the podcast people would know. Pete Reese sang a song in a wig while Claire Miller played the piano. Although they hadn't really coordinated and Pete's microphone wasn't stretching, but basically in most acts things went wrong. We had erotic poetry from a very drunken Yorkshireman who was mixing in his eroticism with the descriptions of the picnic they were eating while they were getting jiggy. And then
how did that go
Bob
down?
and Garvey, that was brilliant. One of the funniest things I've ever seen,
really?
Because it was just so unerotic. And then we had Bob and Garvey were dressed. My friend Bob and Garvey, who I think I've mentioned before, they were dressed in a banana and gorilla suit, but then they couldn't see anything. They couldn't see each other. They couldn't hear the music, and it was the wrong music. So no one really knew what was going on, including themselves. So it was just lots of moments like that. But we don't have to. We don't have to. We can leave conversations there. But I think you were on a table doing a lot of drinking competition, weren't you, during the speeches?
I didn't realise we were doing a drinking competition. Oh no, we were. We were. Do you know what? Now you say that, that's true.
I think that's probably the start of your rapid descent. Yes.
Bruno sent me a message and says actually, what I'll do is I'll read the message because it's quite interesting.
And while you find the message, do better. You missed a lovely wedding. We had a lovely drag queen. Oh, here we go.
It goes, congratulations, you properly fucked yourself up. I don't recall many people in my life doing that to themselves when they aren't in around or forced to do shots by other people. If it helps, you're the weirdest drunk ever. The complete opposite to most people. Most of your life is spent being abusive and rude, and then all of a sudden you switched and became a really lovely person. Kind and thoughtful and complimentary. Freaked me out.
That's right, I think you were...
You're just not you.
Bruno did say that...
Drunk.
Yeah, he did say that you were being really complimentary to him, and he didn't really know how to take it. Yeah, well, my last memory of you is a few of us carrying you to a sofa so that you could sleep, which is probably about one.
I woke up in the room, and someone. This is the sign that you're around real friends. Someone had put something over me, and they'd taken my shoes off as well. Like someone.
Yeah, I didn't take your shoes off. But I put some tablecloths over you, the ones that weren't dirty.
Yeah, that was lovely. Thank you. So thank you for that. Thank you. Rather than leaving me in a pool of vomit or something like that, that would have been. Of course, you haven't mentioned the famous photograph now that everyone seemed to come together to take.
It was almost like the shot of the Oscars where everyone does a selfie. It felt that kind of moment.
It's kind of iconic, yeah. How someone managed to... So basically, this is what happened. I'm assuming this is what happened. I fell asleep in a chair. So everyone thought this is a real opportunity to pile as much shit on Jody as possible and get pretty much everyone at the wedding into the photo with it as well. And... the thing I was impressed with was not only the amount of stuff and the amount of people you got in the head, is that at one point there was a glass of wine balanced on my head as well, which I thought, which is a very dangerous move for someone that is that's kind of fallen asleep.
I've never seen someone. I say, what's it called, buckaroo? I came back from somewhere. I think I'd either been playing basketball or had been doing something else somewhere. I came into the room. I think some people were performing some play in the chapel. It was quite a weird eclectic wedding. So people were going off and doing lots. Or I'd been behind the bar doing espresso martini or something. But I then came back and you were already... You had more items on you than I'd seen on anyone. given that normally with things like buckaroo, someone's lying down or someone's against a chair, whereas you were slumped forward, so you were in essence free seated. You weren't leant against anything.
No.
And that glass of wine, which was pretty full, was on you for at least half an hour. Unbelievable. And you may not have really... It escalated. So I came... You know when you come in, you think, oh, should we be doing this? But at that stage, there was so much on you that to stop it, you're like, it's going to take me half an hour just to unpick all of these items. But someone managed to get an umbrella counterbalanced against a table sign across your shoulder as well. And that still managed to stay. So... I was hoping no one was going to send you that photo, and it was just going to pop up in like 3 years' time, with you not knowing where it was or when it was. Like, how awful did you feel that the next morning?
Well, the next morning, I got up quite early-ish and decided to go back to the tent, and then I think Bruno and G-Law came by and said, "Oh, are you coming down for brunch?" And I'm like, there is not a chance. And I think it was about 3 o'clock when I woke up again, and then I had to, of course, travel back. And so I was driving out, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know if I should be driving even at this point. Well, I thought it'd be fine. I'll get something to eat. And then, of course, it was like the worst. I mean, like bank holiday on a long bank holiday on a Sunday, end of half term, coming back from
it
Devon,
down. Yeah,
pissing it down. I must have. There was so many crashes on the roads and things. I must have literally taken a single track road route from where you were pretty much back to the M25. It felt like it. There was just it, and it was just you just want to go home and you just want to just not think about anything ever again, and just rue your life and say that you're going to quit alcohol and everything else that goes with it. And this journey just went on and on and on. And so it just it was good. But were you delighted with the wedding? It was wonderful. It was, and it was, we got really lucky with the weather, for the ceremony and everything else. So did you have a good time?
Yeah,
I love Claire's speech. Claire's speech was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It was. I mean, I knew it was going to be good. And what was interesting is because in fact, from start to finish, I loved it, as you'd expect I would, because it was all my friends, or loads of my friends, there, and actually because we'd had the official service already, the ceremony last year, it meant we could just dick around the whole time. So, having Vinegar Strokes, our favourite drag queen from RuPaul, she was great. I didn't realise that the email address hadn't worked, so she hadn't seen any of the scripts that we'd sent to her for the ceremony, so she was freestyling through the script, and there were some absolute gems in that, comedy gems in the scripting that were glossed over, but there you go. Then for Do Bad As we all went outside in a field. Vinegar Strokes was the equivalent of the celebrant. She was great, and then our friends were doing various readings, and it turned out that my friend Alex or Lampy and Leroy had met on Thursday night before in a pub for an hour, and
what I love is that I thought it was just the do-badders that took the piss out of you for the press-ups. I didn't realise that was kind of a recurring theme throughout. Even at your wedding, you're having the piss taken out of you for bloody push-ups.
So, I mean, that was an absolute highlight. There was one reading, which was by the Batgirls, that was very funny and personal about us. And then Alex and Leroy decided to do a kind of skit of the first time we'd met based off a Dragon's Den proposal, which ended with Alex, who only has one hand because he was blown up in Afghanistan, still managing to do a press-up to impress Briggsy. Which in the middle of the wedding ceremony is not typical.
When he went down for a push-up, everyone's like, "Oh God, like what's happening?" He's still done it. He's still done a good press-up.
It's still better. But yeah, start to finish, I just loved it, and I'm trying to think of other highlights that the do-badders would appreciate. But I'm probably going to be kicked out of here. Oh no, we're good. This is the world of a working in startup / co-working spaces. You're always begging, stealing space. Yeah, I just loved it, and there was numerous drunken antics were happening. I think till about 7 in the morning were the last people who went to bed, from what
Really?
from what I've been told. Yeah, and
how soon did I fall asleep? I mean, like, how was it?
I've no idea. I have no idea, because there's just so much going on. Because from the moment we finished the speeches and we're straight into the no talent competition, which went on for a long time. But actually, do-badders, if you're wondering what to do at a wedding, do a no talent competition, because instead of having 5 hours of dancing, you've actually got friends doing things that no one knows what it's. There was one magic show where they went behind a veil and suddenly turned into the Queen, and the Queen was there, but then when they were trying to transform back, everything fell apart. Everything you expect. Well, you just don't know what your friends are going to do, and invariably they haven't really practiced anything, and so it's fairly. One of my highlights. My friend JP decided he was going to do speed painting, where I was standing. He was then painting with oils while he was reciting facts about Turner. And he lost the crowd after about 3 minutes. He started booing, and he was then trying to shout them down while finishing off this painting with a fact about Turner's early childhood, which is one of the weirdest, most surreal experiences. So it just gives you a joy for your friends that you've never had before. And instead of and one thing that really worked well, we had hired an actor or actors to who were pretending they were our friends for the whole event. They'd come up with a backstory. They'd researched everything. So you weren't drunk. You don't even remember this in my speech. They'd come up with a backstory. They'd researched us. They'd come up with how they know us, and then people at the wedding had to try and figure out who the fake guests were, and that meant that. You know, at the wedding you have some friends that aren't necessarily as linked to everyone else as possible, or don't know that many people, and throughout the course of the night it just becomes harder and harder to really involve yourself with the drunken dancing or the drunken antics of other friends who are in a group. And so it just meant that all the way through the night people were being accused and being set upon by other friends, saying at one point Bruno in the middle of the dance floor turned round to Cam and who I work alongside, and just went, "J'accuse! J'accuse!" and started accusing them publicly of being the actors and the actresses. And then, because we'd had piñatas hanging out throughout the all the different areas, they were full of sweets and caffeine bullets, and so some friends were on God knows how many bullets they'd been. I won't say the number because I think it's irresponsible to suggest that they can. But we had different friends who were just absolutely losing their mind on bullets. But yes, that was the wedding. All done. Thank you for coming, Jody. Thank you for being an usher.
Brilliant. It was brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for involving me in it. I just wish I remembered so more.
And we'll put photos out when we won't put that photo out. That is our little secret. Private collection. But it is. I mean, maybe that'll come out in 10 years' time as a range of do-badder T-shirts with, getting something to do with finding the balance of drinking in your life or something like that. With a picture of that would work well.
It was like the composition was like the Last Supper or something. It's that kind of.
It was indeed, and I'll release some photos, I guess, on Facebook at some point, so you can see Jody in his full glory. But we need to do some catching up on what's been going on. There's been so many things happening. I'm at the moment kind of obsessed with following Sean Conway.
Oh, okay. What's he doing? Is doing is
So-
it the Iron Man, the Iron Man challenge?
Yeah, have you seen it?
So what is it? 100
Yeah, have you
Iron Mans? No, I've not seen any of it. I've just
So-
heard that he's been doing it.
Sadly, I fear by the time this comes out, it will be over. Not back Sean. He's a great guy. He's been on the podcast. He's just an amazing adventurer. But he's attempting 102 Ironmans in 102 days. So Iron Cowboy has done this in the past, and I think this would be the world record. But I just can't see him doing it.
Why?
I don't want to be a doubter. I just think it's too hard. And then there's a lot of people who are amazing adventurers who do these amazing challenges, but it's never against the clock.
Yeah.
And actually, the reality of this challenge is it is against the clock because you've only got 24 hours. And Iron Cowboy was, a good Ironman athlete who came into it having done many Ironmans, did I think 30 in a year, then tried to do 50 in 50 days, then worked up to 100 in 100 days. And that at the time was mind-blowing. Sean has just kind of come into it. From what I can gather, hasn't done an Ironman before.
Classic.
So, yeah, I think he's bitten off more than he can chew, sadly. I get the sense he knows that already from just the tone of some of his Instagram. But fair play to him. He's banging it out, but it's sleep is the biggest challenge here, and the way he seems to be approaching it. So he started his swims at 5:37 or 5:47 each morning, but he's then taking breaks between the swim and the cycle and the run, and he's having some massages, he's having some foods, and this is the challenge. This is why it's such a challenge, because if you think about a decent Ironman time, I think is around 12 hours. Would be, if you're doing that, you're doing good. Like sub 10 is great. Someone like Ross Mack would be going for sub 9. Top Ironmen would be sub 8. So realistically, if you're looking at a non-racing Ironman, you're probably looking at 14 to 16 hours. And that doesn't leave much time. If you think about what you think about Ali doing the Land's End, John O'Groats, so Le Jog, she's not out there for 16 hours. I don't think most of the time.
No, they're not.
She's doing it for less hours than that.
Yeah.
And that's still crazy hard. And you've got to do your admin. You're struggling to get enough food in. You're struggling to get enough sleep and recovery. Whereas with this, if you're looking at, so Sean has been doing kind of 17 hours from start to finish of how long it's taken. Yeah. And if you think of that, you've only got 7 hours left of sleep, maximum sleep. But he's been finishing at like 10:40, 11 at night. And so even early on, he's having to start at, 5:50, and he's going to bed 11 o'clock at night. And I just don't think you can function on that for that long. I remember we were talking to Dan Lawson, and in his head he was saying he doesn't think he can do 90 miles a day for too many days, and that's the issue with going for the record of Le Jog. With Ironman, I don't understand well enough cycling, but I don't think you can really eat in the same way you can running when you're on the bike. Or maybe you can. So I just don't know how you can fuel it. So I just can't see Sean getting past even 10. I think 10 would be incredible.
Yeah,
it does make you think.
Because I don't know if it works in the same way with Ironman, because it is multidiscipline. But with these kind of long multi-day races in terms of running, there's always a distinct possibility that you can get faster. That your days won't. There is a distinct possibility that those days can get faster. That you got the admin down. Your body's getting used to it. You're losing a bit more weight. If you have a bit of weight to lose, depending on what you're doing, the conditions improve. There is an opportunity. The thing with this, it just doesn't look like that is never going down in terms of the time. There is when you're swimming, for example, you're not going to ever speed up enough for that to make any kind of difference. I don't know with the bike whether that could make a difference, whether you'll get faster on the bike or you'll become more efficient, or I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'd like to hear do badders when you're doing like a sort of a multi-day event with that has multi-discipline. Is it possible to speed up? Is it possible to sort of cut time off? Is there really a chance that that Sean can start getting that time down so he has more time for rest and recovery? Because that's ultimately what he needs, isn't it? Unless I mean, is he definitely not taking that amount of time in order to keep like the intensity low? Taking and keeping the intensity low, and that might be the tactic.
And he's been having massages and things as well in between, so he clearly he's thought about this, and he thinks this is a better approach than going straight through. And that's the thing with Sean. I don't really understand what his capacity is, like what his top end speed is, because if you think of someone like CFTB, he can bang out 9-minute miles all day long. Although it seems probably not at the end of South Downs Way. We'll maybe get onto that in a bit. But it's a lot easier to bang out 9-minute miles if you can happily do, 6-minute miles for 30 miles. And that's the thing with Sean. I don't know what his top end speed is, or what his almost his VO2 max is, for how long he can, when he's pushing out VO2 max, what is that pace? Because it really helps to have that top end pace to be able to cruise a lot more, and whether he is cruising for this or with this is actually taking it out of him. But also he's not made it easy for himself. He's decided to do it. He's in Wales, kind of northwest of Wrexham, and he's decided to always be in the same lake and then go on slightly different cycle routes, slightly different run routes. But even his run, it took him 6 hours, his last run, fair play, man. And it was 1,500 feet of elevation, which is quite a lot for not wanting to do elevation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like when Iron Cowboy did his things, a lot of those he did in really controlled environments. So it was either on a bike, it was either in a pool, but mainly because weather conditions or whatever else stopped him going out. So if you're adding in additional environmental conditions, less controlled conditions, and then you start adding in things like elevation like that, which. Seems real. I mean that every day is an absolute killer.
Yeah, and I'll check his run before 1,100 feet of elevation. So I mean, I genuinely think if he can get to 10, that's impressive. But I'd love to interview Sean afterwards, because I don't think we've really spoken to someone who's been more of the adventurer type, who's set some incredible records, but they've been more like the first person to do it, rather than someone who has been pushing the limit of performance. And this is almost that crossover that Sean is now having to approach this, looking at performance. And so it would be great insight to see how he feels there's a difference between this challenge and the others, and whether he'd attempt it again or what he'd change. Because I think we might learn, particularly for do-badders who aren't necessarily training crazy amounts and are in that really high focused training performance stage of running, what Sean has learned is probably really applicable to how you can move from being more of a just turn up to an ultra and see how it goes to actually how can you improve and get a bit more focused. So yeah, that is what I've been obsessing over. Not obsessing over. I just each morning I just kind of check in to see what's been going on. But did you see about CFTB South Downs Way 100?
Well, he won it.
He did win it, but did you see it again? His pacing.
No, I didn't. I haven't checked the pacing. I was just like, oh, hashtag formality. I just thought that was the thing. I know that the main thing that people were talking about is his badonkadonk style booty carrying technology. That he didn't have a proper vest. He had a giant bum bag. That he was kind of running with, wasn't he, in order to kind of reduce everything, and so that was quite interesting because everyone was like looking at the start, and he also was wearing a vest that made him look topless, which no one wants to see. But
he did. He had a skin. He did. He had a skin-coloured top, which I mean, it's good, isn't it? If you're winning races.
He's coming into the finish. He's not wearing a top. Oh God. I don't know about that. There was another thing I noticed. Not wearing club colours. That was the thing, and also no press ups. So
no press ups.
Written out the history books. So go on. What was the pace? What was the?
So I assume that's the thing. Rich he's such a high level runner that when he goes into an ultra, he's always looking at a course record, and actually that gives you, it almost warps your approach to the race in a way that most of us don't have that pressure, because we probably look at what we think realistically is sensible based on our ability, and then maybe aim for a slight improvement, whereas Rich is going, right, I need to be able to get a course record, and it's really uncharted territory for him, really, because until you've done, my understanding, quite a few hundreds, it's very hard to actually get a sense of what works for you and get it right. He was starting out classic at sub 7 minute mile pace for the first 10 miles, should we say. And he absolutely flew out, held on to around 7 minute mile pace approximately, other than the hills and things, until about 50. And then from mile 50, he was just holding on, and he was being caught. So that must have been pretty tough to have half the race left, and suddenly he was putting in, I mean, he went up to 8 minute miles, then he was on 9 minute miles, then he was on 10 minute miles. And by the end, he was averaging, I mean, there's quite a bit of climbing, but he was on kind of 10 minute miles for the last good chunk, and he clearly got his pacing completely off. I don't think there was that much of a danger.
It's a very different
being caught, but
half of the race. It's a very different half of the race from Worthing to Eastbourne, because the severity of the hill just increases as well. You're all the way down and all the way back up, and it can, if you're not used to walking and not used to like having to kind of really like march yourself up some of those hills, it can really throw people off. So I'll be interested to see whether that was the issue. But yeah, that's a very different situation from like Thames Path, because Thames Path of course is relatively flat, whereas South Downs Way is not flat, and it's a little it's hillier than people think.
And if you've shredded your quads by halfway, your downhill just disappears because you just can't do it. It just hurts too much. So Ooh, fair play, CFTB. You held on, man. You held on.
How far ahead was he than the second place?
Let's have a look. South Downs Way, 100. I think it was still comfortable for what I was saying. Trying to think what else has been. So I've been out to Zegama.
Oh yes, how was that?
It was, yeah. Well, how much do you know about Zegama?
Nothing. The only thing I know is that everybody on the fucking BBR Instagram is going, see you in Zegama. Can't wait for Zegama. Zegama's going to be incredible. Like, what the fuck is Zegama? Just fucking...
So bad do-badders are doing that.
No. All of your pals from...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like...
And I think the phrase is Zegama, that no one really knows. Well, you just say it apparently. Zegama is Zegama. So Zegama is a crazy good race, but it's completely different this year. Well, firstly, Killian's won 9 of them, or had won 9 of them. Didn't have the course record though, and the Golden Trail hasn't really been back since it's had such a high level of athlete going. But also this year, the change in the weather is having a massive impact on some of these courses. If you look at, it seems wherever Killian goes, he takes the weather with him. So he had it with the Bob Graham round, although to be fair, he has done 9 previous Zegamas. But Zegama, I know the stats because I was having to research this. It rains 50% of the time, and the average temperature is something like 10 degrees. But it was unseasonably hot in the whole month building up to this one. So instead of it being almost a British-style fell race where the downhill is massively slippery and people can't control their running, it's really quiet. You've got to be almost a good cross-country runner to be able to compete on it. This was all dried out. So now they could actually fly down the downhill. And it was amazing to see. Not only did we have 5 Kenyans coming out who were learning trail, some of them 208 runners, so they all led up the hill, but you've also got, it changes from a small village town of 1,500 to 15,000 supporters. And so you get people crashing out, sleeping overnight, there's cars on verges everywhere, and it's a huge party atmosphere. It's a race that every do-badder would love. Killian smashed the course record. Ninke, who we interviewed less than a year ago, who's done a 2:22 marathon, she smashed it out, smashed the course record as well. And it's just amazing. It's the first year I've gone back knowing all the athletes properly. And it's weird. So many people are injured in trail running that I've no idea now who's going to win this season, because Killian's not going to do this whole season. Stian's out. So, yeah, I think do-badders should apply to Zegama. You'd love it. It's a trail marathon. It's got about 2,000 metres of ascent, so it's pretty damn hard. But the atmosphere is so perfect for do-badders. So, guys, sign up. Get out there.
Zegama.
Weirdly, though...
Zegama is Zegama.
They've changed... The Zegama is Zegama. They've changed the format of what we're doing. So instead of filming 2-minute and 10-minute recaps, they're filming 22-minute recaps, and our recap is pretty cringy.
Oh really?
Do you know? Have you ever seen something where you think, oh god, this is, oh man. So we have to try and create content on the fly almost, and you try and do some silly things, you try and do some insightful interviews, and try and get some insight on the course, on the athlete, and the first half is just back to back of the silly, and oh man, and it's on YouTube, and it's been heavily slated by a few for not being relevant enough to the race or not showing more race footage. And the trouble with that race is it's hard to get around, so you can't really show that much in race footage. So when you're slightly embarrassed by something you've done.
No, no, not at all. Never had that feeling whatsoever.
But anyway, I started kind of talking through this thing. I'm not sure how interesting all this is to do about it.
That's one embarrassing video. But have you seen the other embarrassing video? And this is embarrassing. So we're going to be thinking about, we talked about the trail pursuit, Lake District situation, where basically they changed the course and they changed it to what is, still a nice course, but totally inappropriate for beginners. Completely inappropriate, apparently, for beginners. And turning up, only haven't done a fake test like that. We said, how can they survive after this? How can they survive after this? Well, it looks like they're pushing on because they've released an after race movie, the official after movie, where they kind of look at it. And I tell you what, you watch it and you're like, this looks incredible. Like, I was like on the verge of thinking, bloody hell, maybe I want to sign up for it. Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I did. I watched it, and it's
comments turned off. That was the interesting thing.
Yeah. They're clearly just moving forward as if nothing's happened. And since it seemed as if they did that last year as well. So we...
Oh, really?
Did you see the email we received? Anonymous email?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know we can, talk about it too much, but it was it was from someone claiming to be a volunteer.
Yeah, so it was sent anonymously, and we had said in the last bad stuff, should we interview the founders and the race director to get a sense, to get their view on it, and their advice is very strongly not, and that I guess the accusation is that they just don't care about safety. They don't care. They don't listen to advice, and this person said that they can't remember ever crying as a volunteer before, but they said it was one of the worst days they've ever had, and they were just left at the end of it, relieved that people got back safely. So it does seem that it's pushing ahead in as if nothing's happened. But we did ask last week in the group. How can you tell if a race will be good or not? The poll. Have you seen this, Jody? Did you see the results?
I didn't see the results. I saw that there were loads of responses to it.
It's interesting, actually, because I guess everyone's got such a unique experience on it because we've all done such different races. Like Spike, for example, who's done a lot of the rat race ones, but then he's now gone on to do loads of different things. He said it's his view that you just can't. Even big trusted events can have a shit show.
Yeah.
And that things can go wrong. But actually, it seems as if a lot of this is not necessarily to do with the route. It's just to do with how you position the route.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's it, isn't it? That's you can't. I think as an organiser, you can't help things like environmental factors. You can't do anything around that, but you can land it with your runners in the right way. And if it feels as though their interests are at heart, that you've got their interests at heart, and you're landing it in the right way, and you're saying things and you're being honest with them, that's a very different thing from saying this is the same. This is going ahead and it's going to be the same as it was before. It's all around. It's always around communication, isn't it? Communication and positioning.
Yeah, and the some of the feedback in here is that people's experience of being actually kind of almost bigger event companies are more likely to take the hit and cancel something and refund, whereas the smaller ones have the pressure. The trouble is a lot of people are saying read reviews, but actually where do you see race reviews? You don't really. It tends to be Facebook, where they can be deleted, and posts can be deleted, comments can be deleted. So it's even now, in 2 years' time, when people look at trail pursuit, will it just be people's memories that hold what happened, because everything else has almost just been wiped clean? So, and like, yeah, it's just really hard to know, isn't it? How to?
It's difficult to know.
One person did say,
even in the early days of a race, like a race, might have had a great first year, and they might have made changes for the second year, which again compromise it, and then the third year they overcompensate, and even someone like Brighton Marathon, like not an ultra, not a trail, it's a big race, but they've been around for a little while, but really they're still and they kind of established themselves, but they still experiment with stuff, and sometimes they get it wrong. Like I remember the year where they didn't have enough water on the course, and of course other issues that they have. So like the big. Constantly having to move things around and constantly tweaking with it as well can just do exactly the same for established races. But I suppose you don't know. Again, it's about the communication.
and there's a couple of good points here as well. So Andy Palmer, who White Star puts on a lot of trail events, but also he's done quite a lot of events. I think he did Bournemouth Marathon. He's done quite a few larger kind of mass participation road events. He said like putting on races, especially long distance ones, are incredibly hard work, take a lot of detailed planning, and even then shit happens most of the time. As a race director, it's how you cope with incidents that's important. And trail running is the Wild West, and anyone in his mate can set up a race with no checks or measures. And then kind of linking into that, Nick Barter said, I wouldn't trust a 30-year-old race director, especially if their registered address is a WeWork, unless they've been part of like a trail running community for a considerable amount of time. And I guess that's it, isn't it? It's understanding almost the history of an event and how it's come and what the experience, like it's probably the total number of years experience of the crew organising it. And you can get around that with lots of people.
Yeah, who's on board?
Yeah.
Who's they got? Who's advising them? All things like that makes a massive difference.
And then I've just remembered, sorry, that the stuff I was saying about Zegama wasn't that exciting or interesting. Apologies. I remembered why I put it in my notes without actually detailing it. What I found really interesting is, so Courtney was there, Courtney DeWalter.
Oh yeah.
She's an ultra runner doing a marathon. So obviously the best female ultra runner, trail ultra runner on earth. Firstly, fair dues. How many people do we know that would actually go and put themselves up against faster runners, knowing you're not going to do that well, because you just want to do an event and test yourself? She came 10th, which is, I think, good. That's the thing. No one really knew. It was great because you asked all these experts, including herself, how are you going to do? Like, what's a good result? And everyone's like, I just don't know. But she came 10th. She seemed happy with that. Everyone seemed happy with that. But also, you had Killian there, and both of them are Salomon athletes, or were Salomon athletes. Both of them were staying with all the other athletes. And it was really fascinating to get an insight of what their race weekends are like. So Killian's got 2 kids. He's got his wife, who's also racing. And they were surrounded the whole time. Even when we're having meals, people were coming up to them asking for photos, like other athletes, and I felt quite a bit of sympathy for him, because there were times you could see in their eyes that they're just exhausted. They're looking after a family, they've got all these media commitments as well, and the one time they're sat there to have food, they're being interrupted again. But I also loved seeing how different athletes were reacting around them as well, because there's still a pecking order. Everyone's still a fan. Even like us at the run show, when people like Scott and Camille there, it's exciting for us because these are people we admire. And having that where you've got all these new athletes, you've got athletes who maybe a bit more established but aren't at the same level, and suddenly you've got the two biggest superstars in the world spending 2 days with them, and you really can see people's suddenly they're the centre of attention in conversations more than they would be. Some people are vying to be best buddies, and it really shakes up people's really shakes up people's race preparations in ways that you wouldn't imagine. And it makes me admire them more, the fact that they can perform so well with all this distraction going on, and just an inability to really ever relax pre-race.
Oh, do you need an entourage?
And I just found that.
They need entourages. That's what they need.
Well,
they need bouncers. They need security. And then you need to have the backlash about the security about the people who are then annoyed because they can't bother them at breakfast and dinner, and so that's it's how it's going to go.
That's the thing. And how do you then respond to that? Do you then take yourself away and you're known as being aloof, even though actually you're just trying to prepare? So it's a really hard balance for people at that level. That's what I want to talk about with Zegama.
We have to deal with that all the time. So we've never got the balance right.
We haven't. We just give too much to people. We just give too much.
Even when they don't ask for it, they just give too much.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think if there are any polls we should give for this week. Maybe we can do one to do with the Iron Man attempt. Like, what would... Because I think that 100 Iron Man thing is one of the hardest challenges I've seen.
Kate Jody is probably the best. She's probably the best person to be able to, because she's done Decker Ironman, hasn't she? Which is like 10 Ironmans in a day. Not in a day, 10 Ironmans over 10 days. So she must know everything there is to know about how the body copes, what you need to do, the difference between doing a running multi-day race compared with a multi-discipline race, and whether it'd be good to actually get her take on what Sean's doing. And we've got loads of Ironman triathletes in the group who are hiding. This is our opportunity to get them to expose themselves.
And maybe that's just the question, because is it unfair for us to ask, like, do we think Sean can do it? Is that too direct because it's actually involving him specifically, or do you think that's reasonable to ask the group, like, do we think this is possible?
I mean, is it possible for anyone to do it in situations that aren't in controlled environments, like with elevation, with environmental factors? Like 100 days, there's a lot that can go wrong, and a lot that can I suppose that could be a question.
Well, the thing is, if you took someone like a Brownlee, or who's the guy who's just gone sub 7, for them, I'm sure they could, because actually you're looking at 7-hour Ironmans, like 8 hours. So actually, like a 15-hour one to them is quite relaxed. But I think of a question to put in. Keep on going though, Sean. And while we're talking about Kate Jaden, big hug to her from us and the podcast. And it's not looking great for Kate's health and being able to run, and so we just want to give as much support we can to you. You must be going through a really tough time. So big up, Kate Jaden. I don't really know what else to say other than we just hope you're all right. Hope you're all right, buddy. Well, anything else to throw into the mix before the end of this bad stuff?
I don't know. We have got actually loads and loads of stuff to still talk about. So, but yeah, I think we'll leave it. We'll leave it for another episode and plough on with it then.
Yeah, and there's so much more to talk about actually about various other things. But do better. Any things you want us to bring up, anything you want to raise with us, then get in touch. Let us at badboyrunning.com, and we will read those out. If you want to get in the group so you can take part in the polls, then please do join. And we're always looking for good guests. We are once again behind on booking guests, so I will be scrambling to do that in the next few weeks. So any particular topics, any articles you read that you think are brilliant that we should try and go into more detail, or just any individuals who've got great stories behind them, let us know, and we will book them on. David at badboyrunning.com.
If you want to... God, sorry, man. Sorry, didn't.
No. I was absolutely throwing it over to you, sir.
No. I was going to say that you've already talked about the getting in the Facebook group. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this with anyone else that you think will find our ramblings interesting, or wants to keep up with some of the incredible interviews that we've got coming up and ones we've done in the past. You can't buy merch at the moment. You'll have to wait till the start of July. But when it is available, it's at store.badboyrunning.com. And that's all I've got to say.
And the question for the YouTube is, what do you think the biggest challenge is with completing the 102 and 102 days? Like, what is the thing that's going to get to you? Is it just your body breaking down? Is it lack of sleep? Is it nutrition? Is it not being fast enough? Comments below, people. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.